So the school was founded and named by John Guest. It was founded in 1911, and his father-in-law was Sir Edmund Walker. And these two people kind of really devised what the school would be. They wanted it to be this kind of sort of a country school in a way, but sort of set apart from the city, with on lots of grounds, and it would feel like you're away from the city and you're on this place. So Appleby is exceptionally beautiful. I think if you were to ask people what are the most beautiful schools in the country, I mean, this is one that might come up. It's just a beautiful, beautiful campus. It was designed, it was created at a time when there wasn't much urban sprawl, and it was meant to be sort of this pastoral school in the country. And even though the city has grown up around it, it really retains that feel. You just feel like you're someplace sort of bucolic. It is beautiful. I mean, you arrive and you see the gates, and you go in through the gates, and there's the chapel there, made with the lake stone, and it's just gorgeous with the ivy on it. It's just a beautiful chapel, beautiful building. The campus itself is just so well appointed. You just walk around and think, God, it's just so beautiful. And the fact that it is, sort of in the city basically, yet it does feel like you're somewhere else because there's so many trees around it. The one end of the campus actually abuts a bit of forest, and of course it's on the lake. It is also a day school, but for that grade 12 year, it's mandatory that you board. And there are lots of different reasons for that. And I think one of them is that they want kids to have an experience much like university. So they're prepared in that way. It's one thing to prepare a kid for university through study habits and study skills and getting good marks and all that stuff. But what have you done to prepare them for it socially? And just the idea of living away on your own. The experience of living with peers together is a powerful experience. You build these relationships differently when you're living together, and they're often more profound. And so in a way, that's the gift that grade 12 gives to these students as well, to really forge these really, really strong friendships that they really do actually will stay with them for the rest of their lives. They go because they want to be challenged, they're academically oriented, and they're intending to go to university. So in that sense, it's very much a preparatory school. But I think it's also true that the kids enter an environment where academic achievement is really prized, and that they want to do well because they see that it's cool to do well, that other people are doing well, and again, that you gain a certain amount of social capital from being academically oriented. So the principal, Innes van Nostrand, talks about this, and he says that both of these things are important. Tradition and innovation are both important. Tradition is what gives you a sense of where you are. It's the culture of the school. It gives you a sense that you're participating in something larger than yourself. And we see that in even the structures on the campus, like the chapel. But the fact that they meet for chapel is still called chapel. It's not an Anglican service anymore. But that's part of the tradition. You get a sense of the long life of the school that you're participating in. That's important. But then you balance that against innovation. And Van Nostrand has said that, we want to do both, but if sometimes we err on the side of innovation, that's probably okay. And the point being that it's more important to really think about what these students need. What can we give them as they go out into the world? What are they going to need to go on in the rest of their lives? And how can we best deliver that to them? And so, you want to be innovative and be changing and be flexible and be building those kind of structures that the students need in order to go out in the world in that way. Think of, service learning and go out into the world and experiencing the world, doing travel, doing global education. They had these programs even in the 30s. And these charming stories these guys told, who they went on these trips to Europe, and they literally went by boat. I mean, that was how you traveled at the time to Europe. I don't think there were many schools, if any, at the time in Canada that were sending their students on these trips off to see the world and to really experience the world in that way. They're one of the first schools to go paperless. In 1995, they started a Mandarin program, which again is quite common now. That's not so unusual, but it was at the time then. But they're really thinking ahead and thinking of what can we bring to the students that they'll need in their lives. It's quite programmed, but I think the term they use, and I think it's true, is it's a good busy. So you keep you keep the students busy, and they do have to be certain places through the course of the day, not just the classrooms, but there's the physical activity times and different things, and I think they hit the balance right. I mean, it's good to be busy. It's good to be again that good busy. So it doesn't feel onerous. You don't feel like you're running from one thing to the next, but you do have a full day and a good day. And I think they've done a good job of ensuring that. Because it is so old and so it has that history, but it's just so strikingly beautiful. It's so strikingly peaceful, and that they make such good use out of it. And when you see the kids going, they're in their classrooms, they're on the grounds, they're doing sports, they're learning, etc. But then when they go to chapel, they enter this just very different environment, and there's a reverence that comes just from that. And you see people kind of transform as they go into it, and it's really quite wonderful. And it's a space where we can be contemplative. We can think about those things that we now think of as character education or those sorts of things. The students giving talks and whatnot. I think one of the newer things, maybe the newest structure on the campus, is the design lab, which was completed in 2016. And so it's a very modern space, and it's a great addition to the campus for sure. So the classrooms, as you walk along, I think, there's one room that has a Harkness table in it, and I think not all of them have a Harkness table, but that's sort of how the approach to academics is really kind of done. It's about conversation, and they talk about if you don't come to class prepared, there's not much that's going to happen. The students really have that sense of responsibility to have done the reading and done the preparation, that when they get to class, that's the time to discuss things and to engage in conversation with others, because they're sort of multi-use spaces. The furniture is modular, you can move it around. The walls all have whiteboards. Math class will have whiteboards on all four walls. In some respects, it feels like you're almost in Muskoka in some ways. They do have Muskoka chairs out at various places so the kids can go out. And I think it really invites them out of the buildings. The fact that the lake is there, I mean, it's true that we just like looking at water. It seems to be this human thing. And the school, I think it's such a great asset to have the lake there. And the kids do go out and do feel invited out to just go sit there by the lake and kind of have a quiet moment. It's another really nice aspect of the campus. So athletics and physical activity is a part of every day. And so even if kids maybe aren't inclined to physical activity, there is still that part of the day. And I think there's something like 4 times a week it's expected they'll get out and do something active. But it's also true that the campus really foregrounds that. And when you're on campus, you do see people being active. They have fantastic facilities, both outdoor and then the skating rink and things. So you do see a lot of people being active in all different ways, and kids are really encouraged themselves to be active. I think Guinness Van Nostrand is very approachable. He's the kind of person that, again, is approachable. He's easy to talk to, but I think he also, for all the right reasons, sort of commands a certain amount of respect. I think he is respectful himself to other people, and I think that people reciprocate that he's an example of how it is that we should be in the world in terms of having respect for other people. I think mental health just in the culture has been something that we've been thinking more about. And part of that process was just going to the entire student body and saying, what are we doing well and what could we do better? And they got feedback that said different things. Maybe we could be more caring in certain ways or whatever. And again, to Appleby's credit, they really took that to heart and really started instigating new programs and knowing that this is something that they really need to focus on, not just having counselors there for students to come and talk to when something's going wrong, but actually to go out and be more proactive within the student body and to make sure that we're really doing things that'll promote caring and promote empathetic engagement. And so there's lots of different ways that they've done that. I think there's some big ways, in terms of counseling services and stuff, but then other things that are a little bit creative and kind of nice. And they have, the one day I was there, they had this popsicle lunch where everybody going into the cafeteria took a popsicle stick, and they were all different colors, and they had to sit at tables with kids who had the matching color popsicle stick, which it's a little thing, and it's not the only thing, but I think it's nice that they were looking at that. Let's do things like this. Let's try this out. Let's do this once a week. And I do think it has an effect. It says something to the students, but they also indeed meet people that they perhaps wouldn't normally meet. And so it's nice that they're being proactive in that way. So in terms of innovation, and we think about service learning, and that's something that was really big, say, in the 80s, and a lot of schools were sort of starting their service learning programs. And it was things like going out into the world and digging a well. And very quickly we saw that this wasn't kind of really what we wanted to be doing. The kind of the relationship between the participants and the destination didn't feel quite right. And so Appleby does do service learning, but it's certainly not in that way. They're more interested in getting kids out into the world and knowing that they're there to learn something themselves, to learn something from others. And I think Appleby, to their credit, has been innovative very quietly in that way, innovating what it means, what service learning means, and what it can bring to a student. I think for students, the chapel is really that connection with the community. It's the time that the school community comes together, and it really is sort of the focal point of that aspect of student life, that sense of belonging, but also it's a restatement of all the values that the school has. And I think kids really appreciate it. Yeah, Appleby is unique in that they talk about leadership as all schools do, but their approach to leadership is maybe a bit different. And I think one thing is just providing opportunities for students to lead, and they've certainly done that. There's 15 official sort of positions, student leadership positions annually in the school. So that's more than just like head boy, head girl, or whatever. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to get an official leadership role. But by the same token, the kids apply for those roles rather than, say, at another school where the student body votes on a head boy or head girl. In this instance, you need to put forth an application and say, this is what I want to do. And so it's different in that way. Ben Ocean talks about how he appreciates, that the school is a microcosm of Canada. And I think what he's talking is that Canada is this diverse country, that it is a country of immigrants. And that's something that I think when he talks about Appleby being a microcosm of Canada, I think that's the way he's thinking about it. That it's this lot of cultural diversity within the place, but also you kind of really encourage that gaze of saying, who are we and where are we in the world? And that goes right back to Edmund Walker. I think that was something he talked about, that, you want to be this leader in the world. More formally recently with the diploma, you get a diploma with a distinction in global leadership. So it's a program, it's an official program sort of within the school, and you can graduate with that distinction. I think alumni would talk about those relationships that they made there. And again, I think a lot of alumni would talk about the relationships they forged during that grade 12 year when they were on campus. I mean, a lot of students, it's not a common experience in Canada for kids to board. In other countries it is, but it's not so much here. So that's a kind of a unique experience that Appleby grants their students. And I think a lot of students go into it with certain ideas of what it's going to be and what it's going to be like. And they come out having experienced so much more. And I'm really thankful for the relationships that grew within that time. And so you have students there, I think on average every year from 40 different countries or more. And so you get a lot of people from around the world coming together. So that sort of diversity as well. They also have a lot of resources. And so they can offer a lot of financial aid, and a good portion, I think, about 20% or so of the students benefit from the financial aid program. So that increases the diversity as well in other ways. So they're thinking not just cultural diversity, but all the diversities, and really kind of recruiting in a sense with those things in mind. They know that makes a stronger school to have a variety of perspectives. on the world and bringing them together into the classroom. I think people are drawn by the traditions, and I think rightly so. I think people are attracted to the fact that it's been such a good school for so long. I think people are attracted to the opportunities that it can bring. I think for a lot of the kids who arrive locally, the day students, it's a chance to go to school in a really international environment, in an environment that has a much broader gaze. This feature review has been published as a book, and it's also available online at ourkids.net.